Humor is good. Humor is good. Yes, and so I would just wanted to say a few words about my journey. I was in Toronto for 5 days, and I enjoyed the travel there. I enjoyed the music at the conference, which was fabulous, and I also was very happy to return home to our beautiful city. We have a river. I know they have Lake Ontario. I thought it was the ocean. From the airplane, I said, "Wow, that's the ocean, the ocean." They said, "No, that's Lake Ontario." So that was fun. That was fun. Yes. So I'm glad to be home. Had a wonderful journey, and I have a little story I'll share with you at the very end of my portion of today's sermon. And I'm very glad we're trying this new thing. So we'd love to get feedback from all of you. Many of us are out playing in the sunshine, and so I really appreciate that you're here. Before you play in the sunshine, you came here first. And I think that you will find that to be very rewarding as we go along. So as Ken so beautifully said, for the next 7 weeks, we'll be sharing this amazing book. And the author of this book, for those of you who are interested, may find it to be, for me, I found it to be the most helpful book that I've read. And so I'm on this journey of awakening. We never get it done, as Abraham Hicks says. We're always on this eternal journey. Some people think you're a minister and you arrive and there you're done. No, it's an eternal journey. We're always learning, right? And so this first step, and I have a little handout for you too, which I think you will enjoy. This first step is entitled, Read Something Inspirational Every Day. And so why would we do that? Why, what is the reason that would be the very first step in an awakening journey of prosperity and abundance? Yes?
Motivation.
Motivation. Okay, good. Anyone else want to guess? Yes, Larry?
It is positive vibration.
Good. Positive vibration, motivation. There's another reason, and this is with May McCarthy, the author of this magnificent book. I encourage all of you to buy it. It has exercises and all kinds of things in it. I love her writing style. So if you're a writer, you may want to look at this. You just have to read it. It's amazing. So this is what she says. The reason we want to read something inspirational every week, or not every week, every day, and every week, and every month, and every year, all the time, every day and twice on Sundays, is that it opens us up to infinite possibilities. So I want you to keep that in mind. What do you do in your life that opens you up to infinite possibilities? And so I begin with a sort of a question, and I already know you know the answer because you're a very smart group of people. You already have the answer. Yeah. So if every single day, all of us in this room, we have to consume some water, we have to drink water, we have to eat food in order to nourish our bodies to stay alive, right? We have to have those things. It is also just as important that we nourish our mind. What is it? I'm trying to remember that saying. The mind is a terrible thing to waste. So you want to nourish your mind. You want to give your brain some food for thought. And it keeps us engaged in life when we are inspired. I just went to McConnell Lake. Anyone here been to McConnell Lake? A few of you? And I learned something new. Well, actually, I didn't learn it very well. It was my first time learning how to kayak. And I didn't drown, but close to it. I could not get my balance. I could not, anyway, so that was my first excursion. But anytime, this is a proven scientific fact. And this is from The Secret. How many of you saw the movie The Secret? Any of you? If you haven't, you might want to check it out. It's fabulous. And what they prove scientifically, I have it at home if you want to borrow, just let me know. The scientists wired someone's brain. They put little electrodes all over their brain, and they discovered, which you all know already, that every single thought has energy. Every single thought you think has energy, and it goes out from you, and it affects your life, your world. Ernest Holmes says, every thought you think falls from you and becomes the clothes you wear. So metaphorically, that's interesting. So likewise, they found out when you learn something new, like I I am in the process of learning to kayak. Next time I'll wear my bathing suit. And I won't wear a hat. Sunglasses, anyway. So every time you learn something new, your brain literally makes a new neural pathway. Every time you learn something new. And so often in today's world, we hear about our elders who are getting Alzheimer's, who are forgetful and having all kinds of situations. What would happen if all of us read something inspirational, put some spiritual food into our mind and our brain every single day? If we had done this already by the time I was my age, I would be a genius, right? I would be walking on water instead of falling in off my canoe. So I love science, and I love the idea of reading something inspirational every day. Another thing that it provides us is it strengthens us. It strengthens our mind. It strengthens our consciousness. And every day when we read something positive, inspirational, and feed our brain nourishing things, we literally, and you've heard this before, we expand our mind. And Dr. Holmes, our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, founder of Science of Mind, said that once you stretch your mind into a new place, it never shrinks back again. And you'll have found that when you learn something new, you may forget like a little bit of how to do it exactly, but once you learn it and you have it in your body memory, that's why dancing works. That's why I love dancing. I haven't danced for a long time. I can still do all of the salsa and the rumba and the mamba and all of those dances because it's in my memory. I learned it in my body. So our author, Mae McCarthy, said that when she was in high school, her mother gave her a book that I also have. And this book is called The Game of Life and How to Play It, published in 1925. And in this book are inspiring stories. And so she started reading this book. Anyone ever hear of this book? You have? Isn't that a great book? I have it. I looked in my library. I have it somewhere, I know, but I looked through my entire library. I couldn't find it. I probably lent it out. I do that a lot. Anyway, this book has stories in it. And when you hear a story that inspires you, it literally causes an emotional reaction. It hits an emotional chord in you that raises your vibration. So that's why it's important to put inspirational, divine food, if you will, spiritual food into your mind every single day. And believe me, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of books that you could find that will do that. Even just a quote, even just a single story. And I'm going to be sharing one with you in just a little bit. So Mae, our author Mae, shares that after reading this book, she was so inspired that she ended up graduating from high school early, going to college, and while she was in college, started a company, a multi-million-dollar company. In fact, she started 6. She has started 6 and has 6 companies. What would it be like to have 6 companies? You would have a lot of company with 6 companies. So she did that from reading this book, from being inspired by this book. And so many, many great authors describe this, and that when they get in touch with universal laws, with universal teachings, with truth with a capital T, that it shifts them, that something inside of them shifts to a greater expression in their life. And so think about that. I bet you all do. How many of you have books at home that you haven't read? I was looking at my library and I thought, oh my gosh, yeah, I read that. I mean, I read them all, but it's been a while, right? And I could pull any of them out and I could be re-inspired by them. How many of you have those kind of books? Lots of books at home. Anyone here? When I first started on my metaphysical journey, I was like a spiritual sponge. What is it? Not SpongeBob. But I inhale. I was reading 22 books at a time. I literally on my bedside I had 22 books, and I would read like a chapter of each book. I couldn't get enough when I first started. That was about 30 years ago. I couldn't get enough, and I'm that way to a certain extent when I get something new. So that's why when I heard about this particular book, it was on the ministers' listserv. I don't know if you shared that. And all of the ministers in our movement, we have about 500 centers around the world, international centers, And they're all like reading this book and they're saying, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so if we practice these steps, and that's what our play shop will be doing this coming Thursday. It's not about homework. It's not about, oh no, I have to go to class. It's not like that at all. It is fun. It is a fun play shop in which we are going to embody, we're going to do the practical application of this practice. So I invite all of you to come. It doesn't cost anything. It's all by donation, whatever you feel it's worth. So there's no fee for the class. It's going to be right here in our office. It's lots of fun. I invite you to come every Thursday for the next 7 weeks. It'll be fun. Now, the very last portion of what I'd like to share today has to do with reading out loud. She said, when you find something inspirational, read it out loud. Why? Because it is another modality that when we use it, it's one thing to see something. It's another thing to hear it. It's another thing to feel it. It's another thing to experience it, right? And so we want to read it out loud. And so I want to share with you a rather humorous thing about my cat. Now, I don't have a cat right now because my cat passed away a couple of years ago. He had a very long and happy life. His name was Whiskers. And he was a big, gray, kind of a domineering cat. And every single morning, I would hear this at my door, on my bedroom door, because I had to close the door, otherwise he'd be up all night, meow, 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 right? Anyone have a cat? Okay, so here it was. Meow! Don't I do that good? I had lots of practice. Meow! So here's the cat, and I would say, okay, 6 o'clock. I must have had a watch. This cat carried a watch. Woke me up at 6 o'clock every morning. So I'd open the door, good morning, Whisker, meow! And it wanted me, it would go directly into my meditation room. I had a separate room for meditation. And it would keep looking at me like this as it went, wanted me to go into the meditation room. I'd say, I gotta make the coffee. So I'd go into my room, I'd sit down with the cat, he would jump up, and as soon as I went into meditation, he would sit on my lap and purr as loud as he could. And so I learned over time that I could read things out loud to my cat. So we're talking about reading things out loud to hear it. And so I began to practice giving my Sunday sermon to my cat. So every Sunday, I would sit down, not every Sunday, but almost every day, I'd write my sermon, I'd sit down with Kitty, and you can do that with your dog, you could do that with Jake. Animals love it. So I'd sit down with the cat, and I'd get out my sermon, and I would give my sermon to the cat, and it would just, look at me, and it didn't say too much. That's kind of nice. So I'd give my sermon to the cat, but reading it out loud. So if you can find this inspirational book, it could be a poem. There's a great author you may not have heard of. I love him. He's so interesting. His name is Hafiz. And he's from many centuries ago. He's a very interesting poet. You might want to check that out. But read it out loud. It will open your mind to the greatest possibilities you can ever have in your life. It'll inspire you. It will uplift you. It will cause that emotional chord in you to get tapped in, tuned in, turned on. So it's a really positive thing that you can do. Step number 1, which is to read something inspirational every single, I'm going to say morning, because by night I get a little sleepy. I don't know about you. So every morning, if you can read something that will inspire you, because what I know is that there is no limit to our brain. There is no limit to us in any way. We can learn. There is no limit to the all-knowing power of our CSO, Chief Spiritual Officer. That's what she calls God. Isn't that a great name? I think I like it because it's neutral. It doesn't. Some people have had difficulty with the word God. Anyone here have that? So CSO. Do you like CSO? Can you deal with that? See, I have a meeting with my CSO. Yeah, sounds great. So I'd like to close my portion today with, and I have a handout to go with it, with this story that was shared with me at the conference. And it's a Unity minister. Many of you know about Unity centers. They have about 700 centers around the world. And so they are very similar. The founder of Unity and the founder of the Science of Mind were buds, and they knew each other. So it's very similar to us in many ways. So this Unity minister was sharing with all of us at the conference that she had to go to the dentist. Who likes to go to the dentist? So she goes to the dentist, and the dentist says, oh my goodness, we need to do some work here. And she said, okay. He said, you need 4 crowns. And so in her mind, she's thinking, oh my God, 4 crowns. You know how much that costs? Anybody? She doesn't have dental insurance. She needs 4 crowns. That's, you know, at least $5,000 or $6,000, right? 4 crowns. And all of a sudden she went into a panic, and she said, oh my goodness, I'm a Unity minister, and I'm in a panic. Where am I going to get the money? What am I going to do? She starts fretting. She's just having a horrible time, right? One of her colleagues calls her and says, I have an affirmation for you, and I want you to start saying it right now. And when you say this affirmation, it's going to shift your consciousness, and it's going to cause you, and you're going to read it out loud, you're going to say it out loud, and it's going to inspire you. So here it is. You ready for it?
Yes.
Go. So she said, I have to get 4 crowns. Here's the affirmation. Thank God I'm rich. That's it. Thank God I'm rich. So she started looking in the mirror. Thank God I'm rich. I have to get 4 crowns. Thank God I'm rich. Thank God I'm rich. Thank God I'm rich. So I have a handout that says, thank God I'm rich. Let's say it together. Thank God I'm rich. Let's say it again. Thank God I'm rich. No matter what comes up in your life, whether it's a car repair or crowns or someone raises your rent, you're going to say, thank God I'm rich. And I'm going to ask Ken to pass these out. I invite you. I put it on my computer. You can take a couple of them. I have lots of them. And I invite you to say it out loud, to know that it is going to inspire you. It will. Thank God I'm rich. Thank God I'm rich. Take a couple of them. I thought maybe I would paste it on my head when I go kayaking.
Thank God I'm fast.
So that is the story I will end with. And now we're going to invite the second reverend up.
Thank God I'm cloned.
Yep, take a couple of them, take them with you, put them everywhere. Thank God I'm rich. So no matter what happens, you say, thank God I'm rich. And your body, your mind, your heart, your soul expands to receive that, to believe that, ask, receive, believe, and receive. And so there it is. So now I am joyously going to turn this over to Reverend Ken, who will do the very last part of today's sermon, the second half, if you will. So let's give him a rowdy welcome. Reverend Ken.
I want you to know that I have spared no expense to bring the latest technology to this gathering. Anybody recognize this? This comes, I found it in the dumpster. Now, some of you, this is called a radio. Radio.
I've heard of them.
This is called, well, you know anyway. I'm not going to say you're as old as I am, but here we go. We'll just set this, and then it's going to do its job. There is a purpose. There is a purpose to all of this. The message today is about inspirational reading. One of the major items, and I learned a lot right away. I do a lot of studying. When I read, basically, I approach it with the intention of studying and learning and absorbing and that sort of stuff. I had to set that aside. That is not the intention of the reading that is step number 1. The intention of step number 1 is simply to connect with CSO. It's simply to let go of the stuff, of the everyday stuff, and raise ourselves up and reconnect with that eternal part of us. Now, this is important. This is worth at least 1,000 words. Wow, that's not in tune. Technology. I don't like that.
I don't know how.
Oh, don't like that. I think I'm just going to switch over here.
So don't miss out. Birthday cake and ice cream together.
How many of you like to keep that there? Remember the great expense. Now, in the How to Speak Science of Mind book, Dr. Dennis Merritt Jones, he's got a paragraph about the fact that we are radio stations. Bet you couldn't do that with these Walkmans or whatever. Anyway, we are radio stations. CSO is a radio station, and we are radio stations. We won't get to the we part until about step 6 or 7, but we know that. So what this extravagant act was all about is the fact that put away the other stuff that we kind of approach reading with. I have to do that. And just approach it with the intention of kind of feeling that centered, grounded space where you're open and receptive to connecting, albeit in a meeting, they call it. Oh! Did you hear that? Yes. Because I've got these habits, sometimes I can read or write a letter up to an hour and a half. The intention of this program, do we have it up here? The Path to Wealth is to be able to do the daily work in 30 minutes. 30 minutes. And I use the timer on my stove, which is where I kind of do some work in the kitchen. Now, I could set this because I need an outside help for me to focus my time. So I will turn it to 10 minutes to do my reading. And then the next part of it is also a 10-minute segment. And I will reset it for 10 minutes. And until I kind of get in the habit or shift my consciousness, I have a tendency to move on. So the first aspect, of course, the reading is intended to be inspirational, and Larry said it earlier, vibrations. It's about vibrations. All about us is vibration, and what we want to do is to try and match up ours with CSOs, to find that inspiration that'll kind of pick us up. We might have just got out of bed, whatever. We're kind of just sort of coming to, and we want to pick ourselves up, to open up, and to be that inspirational place. Now, Sheila, can you do thing in 2 minutes? As a special guest, just to be inspired, we've invited Sheila, who has a story to tell, and this would be an example. This could be written up and put into a book of collections of inspirational stories, and I've even thought of opening that up and inviting each of you, whether you wanted to take credit for it or make it anonymous, about an inspirational situation that you had. Anyway, please attune to Sheila.
Boy, have I got a story for you. You all know about my foot, right?
I set the timer for 2 minutes.
And a lot of good things have happened because of my foot. So it wasn't a bad thing that happened, it was a good thing. One of the good things was that I released my tie to my jaw. So I no longer have a jaw, but it's a good thing. And temporary financial hiccup. So my job allowed me to put away a large chunk of money, right? This happened, no income coming, so I had to utilize that money. So it depleted. So I get to a place where I get back from Toronto and I'm going, gee, what's going to happen now? Well, ICBC, the lady was at fault. So ICBC has come through with a certain amount of money per week, which is about a third of what I was used to getting. And so Monday, the day after I get back, I'm talking to my friend up in Alkali Lake, and I said, well, I got a check from my CBC, and I kind of laughed, and I said, 2/3 of it's going to pay the rest of my rent, and then there's another little bit of it that's going to pay an overdue amount of money owing already. I said, that leaves me $25 to live on till my next ICBC check. And so there was another envelope as I'm talking to my friend opening my mail, and it's handwritten, and I'm going, well, this must be the letter of reference that I had asked my boss for from my job, right? So I opened the envelope, and it's a little handwritten note saying, I had sent him, oh, I have to back up for a minute. I sent him a thank you card before I went to Toronto, thanking him for giving me the opportunity 16 months ago to be of service for my 2 clients, Don and Lois. And so his little handwritten note was, sorry I didn't do the same, but I wanted to get this to you quickly, with a small token of our appreciation. So I opened the letter, and I started to cry, because he said such beautiful things about me. One of them was, Sheila, on a scale of 1 to 10 is a 15. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I read this to my friend, and I said, oh my God, I'm crying, I'm really touched. And so then I look at this token of appreciation, and I really started bawling. In this hand, I have my regular $10 a week contribution. And in this hand, I have an unexpected income contribution of $100. So that token of appreciation was a wonderful check that was going to allow me to live for the next month, along with my weekly little input for my CBC at a comfortable level. So that was part of, I started doing Path to Wealth about 2-3 weeks ago, just before I went to Toronto. So this is what's come about since I started doing it. So that's my story.
You were under 2 minutes, 1 minute and 54 seconds, but that was beautiful. She's not getting paid by the minute either, so thank you for that. How many of you have got your own story of inspiration somewhere there in some spot? Yeah. So that's what I wanted to say today, was just to bring that element of sort of the timing and the reality of it all. One other thing that kind of moves us to the next stage in there was about page 20, and it reinforced watching our language. And that kind of gets us prepared when we actually write, which is part of the second stage, watching what we put down. And Rev Joy-anne, if she was dressed in a, albeit probably a fashionable bathing suit, the next time she went kayaking, what would be the message that she is giving out here? It would be that she's ready for the same experience that she had last week. Or, well, maybe not, but I'll be safe. Anyway, you understand that we do take these things on, and sometimes we just do them without thought. So just, you might say, oh, gee, that wasn't that good a thing to say, or something like that. So we have to watch our language, because it's our language that we end up experiencing. We end up living our language. So we'll move on. Yeah, I have to find out what I've got here. Okay, so we're into special music, I guess. Okay, sharing the dream. All right, so thank you for your attention.